ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa is certain the party will win the 2024 general elections. He addressed the ANC's Western Cape long-awaited elective conference at the weekend. Ramaphosa called for unity and said the ANC will not need coalition governance. We're now joined by political analyst Asanda Ngoasheng to take a look at what the party needs to do and if indeed that is an attainable goal. Asanda, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Let's take a look, listen at what the president of the ANC told party members in the Western Cape yesterday.
We are going to be holding the BRICS summit in August. And yes, that BRICS summit is going to take place. It's going to go on. And we will be outlining precisely how that summit is going to be held. There's a great deal of impatience. They want to know, is so-and-so coming or is so-and-so not coming and all that. And I've often said, yes, we will make that announcement.
Okay, Asanda, it would appear that that is not the bite we were looking for. But the president of the ANC telling party members in the Western Cape that indeed the party will clinch the deal and will take the elections come 2024. Let's play that out. For that to become a reality, what do they need to do, in particular, the Western Cape?
I think that, the ANC has, in a lot of ways, ignored the Western Cape for quite a long time and basically given it over to the DA. And they're going to have to start focusing on actually trying to win elections and actually trying to get voters to choose them in particularly the Western Cape before they can even think about winning the elections, because they've been spending most of their time actually fighting for positions. That's why we're seeing this election happening long after the December National Elective Conference, because the Western Cape ANC had to have an interim structure in place in order for them to be able to even go to the national structures. And you've got other structures like the Dula Oma region, which has been disbanded twice in 5 years. And all of it is really mainly around infighting. And fighting for positions in particular.
What does that then do, the old age adage of when elephants fight, it's the grass that gets impacted the most, especially when you take a look at townships like Nyanga, Langa, etc. With the recent floods, they were some of the most impacted, and the issues of spatial planning have not been addressed for those people, including other basic services, for lack of a better expression. And so what does this mean to those people?
Well, we have a problem where in the DA, and because of South Africa's apartheid, spatial planning continues to be most observed in South Africa, in the Western Cape, in Cape Town in particular. And so you have black people still living in the township under dire circumstances. Every single year when there's winter in Cape Town, we know it's guaranteed that black people are going to be swimming in water instead of sleeping because of the floods and because of where their houses have been built, and because, the DA continues to be very good at delivering in former whites-only suburbs and where white people live, but they are very, very happy to provide very little, if anything, in areas where black people live. And the ANC provides the potential and the possibility for black people to receive at least some service deliveries in these underserved areas. But because they're so busy with infighting, they have been failing at this. They have also been failing, at other basic things like racism in schools. We're seeing racism in Western Cape schools, and it's something that happens regularly, and it's something that has gained national attention. But the ANC hasn't been there to show, as the alternative government, as the government sort of in waiting, or shadow government as the DA calls itself across the country, what they can do and how it is that they can, defend black people, because they claim to be the political party of black people. And that's one way that they could be showing the South Africans, particularly black South Africans, that they still have their back. And they fail in these, and they also fail, as I've said, in delivering basic services in colored townships and in black townships. And you also have, in the Western Cape, there are very particular politics of the conflict between, colored people and black people. And these politics play themselves out at a leadership level where there are cries to this day in the Western Cape with colored people saying they feel like they're not black enough, they were not white enough during apartheid, and now they're not black enough, they feel ignored. And the very leaders, the very colored leaders that are put in place in the ANC, for example, have not been able to convince people that they have their interest at heart. And that's why we're seeing Cape colored nationalism spreading its wings in the Western Cape in a way that it hasn't and it isn't across the rest of the country. And these are things that the ANC had a responsibility to ensure do not happen, because a Cape colored nationalism is going to divide us further as black people and is going to lead to further issues and problems. And the Western Cape is dealing, particularly in colored townships and black townships, with gangsterism. They're dealing with issues like these extortionists who are making it impossible to do any kind of business in any township in the Western Cape. And for as long as you have issues like that between gangs and the extortionists, black neighborhoods, colored neighborhoods are not going to progress, and there's going to be no development in these areas. And these are issues that the ANC could be shining a light on. These are issues that the ANC could be leading on, because the DA has abandoned these issues and is not doing enough. And so they have an opportunity to fill that gap, but they have been failing in doing that because, as I said, they're so focused on fighting for positions.
Vuyiso Kyalisisu, the new provincial chairperson, the person at the helm for the ANC in that province, little is known about him. And so do you perceive that this is the person to bring about that unity so that the interests of the people of the Western Cape can be served?
Well, he comes from the biggest region, of the ANC in the Western Cape, which is the Dala Oma region. But it is worthy to note that he was part of the leadership that was eventually disbanded in that very Dala Oma region. And so it's going to be interesting to see how he brings the very warring parties essentially together. And it's going to be interesting to see how he manages the colored versus black and black versus colored conflict that's constantly brewing in the Western Cape. And it's going to be interesting to see how he manages this to a point where you have unity between colored and black people in the Western Cape. Because without this unity, the DA is going to continue to conquer and divide, and is going to continue to take those votes and go and deliver services where white people are and leave the black people and the colored people, underserved as they have and continue to do so. And you'll see that, the DA in the Western Cape has been dropping in terms of support, but the ANC has also unfortunately been dropping. And as I've said, you've got these Cape colored nationalists that are now rising and are basically taking up space where the ANC used to be able to take up space. And so if they don't get their act in order, they're going to lose more and more power, and they're going to find themselves becoming a lesser and a lesser minority party when they have the potential to become quite a big contender. And they are needed as a contender because, the DA has a history and continues to ignore black people and colored people in the Western Cape.
Asanda Ngoasheng, thank you very much for your time.